So today we will be discussing the DFS traversal in a graph. So in the previous video, we did discuss the BFS traversal of a graph. Over there, the BFS traversal meant that you're traversing the adjacent nodes at first. But over here, we are going to learn another technique which is known as DFS traversal or the depth first search traversal. So this is the graph that is given to you. Now this is not two different graphs. It is a single graph but with multiple components. Over here we have two different components of a single graph. So the depth first search traversal of this will be, first you'll traverse to 1, then you'll traverse to 2. Now had this been BFS traversal, you would have traversed 4, then 7, then 6. But this is not BFS. This is depth first search. So you traverse to 4, then you traverse to 6, then you traverse to 7. Basically depth first from 2. Once you have gone to 4, you have to go to the depth. So you go to 6, then you go to the depth 7. So that is what is the DFS traversal for this component. For this component, it's going to be 3, 5. So you can either call this as one of the DFS traversals, or the other one can be 1, 2, and you decide to go this way. So if you decide to go this way, you first go to 7, then you go to the depth wise, that is 6. Then you decide to go to 4. After that, for this component, it can be 3, 5 or 5, 3. That completely depends on how you're writing your code and how you're adjusting your adjacency list. So this will be the DFS traversal. So this is a bit different from the BFS traversal. So the adjacency list for the given graph will look something like this. I've already drawn it and you already know how to draw that, right? That will be the adjacency list. So what's the first step that you do in DFS traversal? You create a visited array of size 8 because there are 7 nodes. Now we are taking 1 based indexing of nodes. So we are gonna take a size of 8. So make sure all the indexes are marked as 0, which means they have not been visited yet. Now that will be the visited array with everything marked as 0. That means it has none of the nodes have been visited. Now you know that there can be multiple components, right? So you have to call an individual DFS for this component, and then you have to call an individual DFS for this component in order to traverse both the components of a single graph. So what you do is you basically write a for loop, right? And you can start from the first node, so that's the first node, and then you can go on till the 7th node. And what you can do is, if the node has not been visited, right, if the node has not been visited, that means that component has not been visited. You will understand when I will show you the algorithm. So you have to call the DFS for that component, right? So that's how the pseudo or the driver code will look like from the main. But now you need to understand how does this DFS algorithm work and how you're going to traverse these nodes. So at first, what is the value of I? The value of I will be 1. So it sees that is 1 unvisited. Yes, 1 is 0. So what it does, it calls a DFS for 1. Okay. So you call the DFS for 1. Now when you call the DFS for 1, please make sure you mark it as visited. Now remember, a DFS is basically a recursive function. So what you do is, once you have this DFS1, you have marked it as visited. Now your next step will be to call recursive DFS functions for all the adjacent nodes of 1. So I can say that the adjacent node of 1 is 2. So is 2 visited? No. So what you will do is, you will basically call a DFS for this 2, right? And since there are no other adjacent nodes, you're not going to call any further DFS calls. Now since there is a call for DFS2, you go to 2 and mark it as visited. Now what's your step whenever you go to a DFS? You mark that node as visited, and what is your next step? You will visit all its adjacent nodes, or you'll call the recursive function for its adjacent nodes. So for 2, what are its adjacent nodes? 1 is 1, then is 4, then is 7. But you will not call for 1 because 1 is already visited. So there has been a recursive call for 1. So you're not going to call for 1. Now will you call for 4? Yes, you'll call for 4. So you're going to call for 4. Now remember, at first you'll call for 4. So after that you'll call for 7. But first you call for 4. So that is why a depth first traversal will happen. Because if you call these two together, there's a problem. So at first you'll call for 4. So this guy gets executed at first, the DFS of 4, right? So you must be knowing recursion. So the left portion will execute at first. So 4 gets visited. Now when 4 gets visited, what happens is it looks out for its adjacent. Now it sees that 2 is one of its adjacent, but 2 has been visited. So it will not call a DFS for 2. Now it sees its next adjacent node, that is 6. Now is 6 visited? No, 6 is not visited. So it calls a DFS for 6. So we call a DFS for 6. Now whenever a DFS call for 6 is made, the first step, go to 6 and tell him that you have visited, right? What is the next step? Look at its adjacent nodes. So one of them is 4. 4 is already visited, so there will be no recursive DFS call for 4. Is 7 visited? No, 7 is not visited. So what we do is we call a DFS for 7, right? So you can see the traversal. We are going 1, 2, 4, 6, then 7. So once the 7 has been called, what you do is you go to 7 and mark it as visited. Now, since 7 has been marked as visited, what's your next step? Let's look at its adjacent nodes. Can a DFS call be made for 2? No, that's already visited. Can a DFS call be made for 6? No, that's already visited. So there will be no further recursive DFS calls that will be made from 7. So you're going to stop. So when you stop, you're going to come back, right? Again, you're going to come back. So DFS of 4 is also over, so you're going to come back. Now at DFS of 2, there were 2 adjacent nodes for which you were going to make recursive calls. But you see that now when you try to make it recursive, because 4 is over, now the recursion will try to call 7. But what happens is 7 is already visited, so there will be no further recursive calls. So you see that first 1 was visited, then 2 was visited, then a 4 was visited, then a 6 was visited, then a 7 was visited. So you can see that the DFS is traversing in this way. So I can say all of them have been visited, and the recursion call for the node 2 is completed, so you get back. So does 1 have any other adjacent node? No, it doesn't have. It only had 2. So I can say the recursion DFS for 1 is also over. So this is how the DFS works. Since you called for one of the nodes of this component, it made sure that all the nodes in this component were visited. So you're ultimately traversing through the graph. Now the next step, the value of I becomes 2. It checks, is it visited? Yes. So no DFS call made. I value becomes 3. Is 3 visited? No, it is not visited. So again a DFS call for 3 is made. So whenever a DFS call for 3 is made, what happens is it checks out what is the value at 3. Now whenever a DFS call for 3 is made, what is the first step? Go and mark it as visited. Next step, call the DFS, call the recursive DFS for its adjacent node if it is possible. Is 5 visited? No. So that's possible. So what you do is you call a DFS for 5. Okay, so we call the DFS for 5. Now at 5, what is the first step? Make sure it is visited. Now let's look at the adjacent nodes of 5. Adjacent node of 5 is 3. So can you visit 3? No, that's visited. So there will be no further DFS recursive calls. So I can say 5 is over. So how did you call the recursive? What is the recursive hierarchy? It was first 3, then it was 5. So this is how the recursive hierarchy was, and you can call the recursive hierarchy as your DFS traversal. So you have made sure that you have traversed for this component as well. You called it for 3 and it made sure that all the nodes in this component have been traversed. So now it will come back and it will go back and the value of I will become 4. Is 4 unvisited? No. Then it will change it to 5. Is 5 unvisited? No. Then it will change it to 6. Is 6 unvisited? No. Is 7 unvisited? No. And ultimately I will become 8 and this for loop will terminate. So you saw that whenever I was initially 1 and 3, it made 2 DFS calls for 2 different components. So please make sure you write this for loop, because if a graph has multiple components, then you will only traverse for the first component that you get, and you'll leave out all the other components. So please make sure you write this for loop. If I talk about the time complexity of this traversal, since you're traversing n nodes, I can say it's a big O of n traversal. And since you're running this for loop, it's another big O of n. Why not n into n? Because see, you're not every time calling this DFS, right? You're only calling for components. So ultimately, I can say it's n plus n. If you know time complexity in a much good way, it's just n plus n. What about the space complexity? Obviously it's gonna be big of n, because you're using the visited array, and if you're using this adjacency list, that will take some other space. But generally for the DFS traversal, we can call the time complexity and space complexity to be this. Time to discuss the C++ as well as the Java code for this DFS traversal. Now, since I've taught you how to take input of a graph and put it into an adjacency list, so assume the number of nodes is v, and you have the adjacency list, right? So what we do is, at first, let's create a data structure which is going to store our DFS traversal, right? Now let's create a visited array. That was our first step, and make sure you mark it as a 0. In Java, if you declare this in this way, it automatically gets marked as 0, so you don't have to worry about that. Now you know you have to run a for loop from 1 to the number of nodes, that is v. So let's run a for loop from 1 to v. And you know, if that is unvisited, if the node is unvisited, so in that case, what were we doing? We're calling the DFS, right? So let's call the DFS for the node I. And let's pass on the parameters. So the parameters that will be required will be the visited array. We will require the adjacency list. And to store the DFS traversal, we'll require the stored DFS data structure. So basically this is the recursive function DFS, which is called with a node that we were expressing in our algorithm that we saw, and these parameters are basically required, so we just carry them. This is the parameter that was basically changing, because you're calling different recursive DFS for every other node, right? What was the first step that you're doing in your recursion? You always made sure that the node was marked as true in your visited array. So that is what I'll do, right? What is the next step? You made sure a recursive call was made for all its adjacent nodes, but a step by step. That is what I'm making sure. I'm traversing for all its adjacent nodes. So if you write adjacency get of node, you'll get the list of all the adjacent nodes, and then you can for each loop in that, right? So in this way, you'll get all the adjacent nodes. And now you call the recursive DFS only for them who have not been visited. So I basically check if they have not been visited, if the adjacent node has not been visited in my DFS traversal. So in that, I'll call it DFS. Now since the for loop will run, it will go one by one to every adjacent node. So the first recursion will get executed, then only the next DFS will be called for the next adjacent node, then the next DFS will be called, then for next. So it makes sure that one recursion is over for the adjacent, then only we call the DFS for the next adjacent, right? So this is how the recursive code for the DFS will look like in the Java code. So it's time to discuss the C++ solution for DFS. So since I've already taught you how to take an input of a graph and how to store that in an adjacency list, so assume that you have stored that in this adjacency list, and the number of vertices or the number of nodes is n, which is v. So we call this basically the DFS of a graph, which is going to return me the DFS traversal. So to store the DFS traversal, let's take this stored DFS data structure, which is going to store the DFS. Now the line number 21, what I do is I create a visited array, right, of the size n plus 1 or v plus 1, and I make sure that everything is initialized as 0. That means they have not been visited yet. Now you know, for different components you have to run the DFS again and again. So that is why we run a for loop from 1 to v. So we are running a for loop, and what we check is if that node is unvisited. If that node is unvisited, we always call that DFS, right? And the DFS was called with the I. So we call it. And what were the parameters that we will be requiring in our DFS? We require the visited array. We will be requiring the adjacency list. And since we are storing the DFS traversal, so we are carrying the data structure as well. Now let's look at the recursive DFS function. So you see the recursive DFS function. And you know, one parameter that will always change is the node. So we carry that. And apart from that, we'll be requiring visited, adjacency list, and stored DFS. So we carry that as well. So what was the first step that you always did whenever a DFS of a node was called? You made sure that it was marked as visited. So let's mark it as visited. What was the next step? You traversed for all its adjacency node. So basically I go to all its adjacency node and I run a for each loop. So it will make sure that every adjacency node is traversed one by one by one. And for every adjacency node, I check if that's visited. And if that is not visited, then only I'll call the recursive DFS, if you remember. Then only I'll call the recursive DFS, if you remember. So I call the recursive DFS. Now once this recursive DFS is over, then it goes back to the next adjacency node, and it again calls the recursive DFS. Now once this recursive DFS is over, then it goes through the next adjacency node. It doesn't calls recursions at a time. Once it completes one recursion, then it goes to the next. So that is how the DFS works. So this will be the recursive DFS function in C++, and this will be for all its component. And ultimately, when you have stored all the nodes, you can return that stored DFS as your DFS traversal. So that will be it for the C++ code. So guys, I hope you have understood the entire DFS traversal. So just in case you did, please make sure you hit that like button, and if you're new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. With this, I'll be wrapping up this video. Let's meet in the next video.
Whenever your heart is broken,